Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where two or more fictional characters collide in a battle of strength, or wits, or really high rolls on the animal companion table, and see who would win. This week, Daenerys Targaryen versus Princess Mononoke. It's been an interesting couple of weeks for Daenerys Targaryen, the Unburnt, Queen of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Queen of Meereen, Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, Breaker of Chains, and Mother of Dragons. She got married to a dude she wasn't really into, had to sit through a fighting tournament she wasn't really into, took a ride on the back of a dragon that she was super into, and then ended up in the middle of the Dothraki Sea eating stuff she probably shouldn't have been all that into, while she tried to walk all the way back to Meereen while sick and suffering from hallucinations. In about 30 seconds, a Dothraki scout will be scared off by Drogon and head back to report to his Khal, who will eventually come across Dany and Drogon sharing a healthy meal of horse meat. And the story of Daenerys Stormborn will continue in, 7 or 8 years if we're lucky.
Man.
You know that saying that whenever a new Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin? Well, there are lots of other divine coin flips that randomly decide all our fates, or at least that's the conclusion Colin and I came to during our recent deep existential discussion. And those pesky deities just tossed another one. On one side lies Dany's discovery by the Dothraki and subsequent adventures in Vaes Dothrak, as televised in a certain bastardized HBO abomination last year. It's what happens when the other side lands face-up, however, that concerns us tonight. The Dothraki scout never sees the dragon. Dany continues her walk, with the curious Drogon following from on high, having never found his equestrian din-din. At one point, an impossibly bright light shines all around Dany, but she's too busy listening to the voices in her head to worry about it and walks on. And maybe it's just because she's fucking delusional, but when the light disappears, she looks around and realizes that she's in a forest. A forest? How? The only forest she knows of anywhere close to the Dothraki Sea is the Forest of Cahor, and she can't possibly have walked that far. Turning back, there's nothing but trees as far as the eye can see. Now lost in just about every sense of the word, Dany sees no choice but to continue on. Perhaps she's dreaming, or ensorcelled somehow. Or perhaps the gods are simply testing her. She resolves to follow her current path to its conclusion and eventually reaches a walled settlement beside a lake. A small group of people are heading toward the entrance to the town, and Dany falls in with them. Forgive my ignorance, she says apologetically, but what place is this? What lord rules it? Her newfound companions look at her strangely, but finally a man who had identified himself as Daniel Koble answers her. This is Irontown, Koble says. It's ruled by Lady Eboshi. Dany frowns. Isn't Dorne supposed to be a desert? Anyway, she's never heard of House Eboshi. I see, she says, and is this Lady Eboshi a just and noble ruler, loyal to the true queen? I don't know about any true queen, puts in a woman whose name Dany recalls was Michelle Cohey, but Lady Eboshi is great. She's the one who liberated us and brought us here, where we're not forced to accept a lower position in society just because we're female. This accompanied by a contemptuous look at Koble. Maybe this is Dorne after all, Dany thinks. It's certainly gender progressive enough, and the town seems to be thriving. The more Dany sees, the more she can see the stark contrast between the civilization present here and the wilderness just outside the walls. Stark. Dany's eyes narrow. Stark. A forest. And Irontown, a suspiciously northern-sounding name. Could it be? Could some magic have delivered her all the way across the narrow sea, directly into the kingdom of one of her father's greatest foes? The people have moved on, but Dany explores and listens, and the more she hears, the less she likes. A forest spirit worshipped as a god. The pack of wolves that defends it, led by one greater and more terrible than the rest, and the girl raised by the wolves who has forsaken her own humanity and fights against her own people. These northerners are more savage than even she had ever imagined, and there's only one conclusion to be made. Daenerys Targaryen has finally returned to Westeros.
Yay!
She has no army and no dragons, but she must stake her claim here. She must strike a blow directly to the heart of the Kingdom of the North, and then she will raise the banner of the three-headed dragon on high and proclaim to the seven kingdoms that their rightful queen has come home, that they might renounce the children of the usurper and join her in glorious conquest. And Dany feels certain that Lady Eboshi, an avowed enemy of this forest spirit, and the wolves, and the mysterious Princess Mononoke, will aid her in her ascent. Unfortunately, their first meeting doesn't go so well. Lady Eboshi doesn't seem to have any idea who Dany is, and when Dany demands that the lady kneel before her, the true queen, Eboshi calls on her own followers to seize this presumptuous stranger. But before anyone can move, the air is suddenly shattered by a harsh reptilian scream as Drogon drops out of the sky, bathes Dany's surrounding attackers in flames, and with a single twist of his powerful neck and a snap of his jaws, rips off Lady Eboshi's right arm before landing beside his mistress. The townsfolk are burned, shattered, screaming. Dany will get no help from them, but she doesn't need their help anymore. Mounting Drogon, and hoping her luck in being able to both ride and control him holds out as long as possible, the Mother of Dragons soars over the walls of Irontown and into the forest beyond. Her enemies couldn't possibly have failed to note the commotion and will doubtless be prepared for her, but that doesn't matter. She will find them and teach them the true meaning of the words fire and blood. Dany and her son, Drogon, will find and confront San and Moro, but do they have what it takes to defeat them on their home turf? Or will the Princess of the Wolf Gods and her actual wolf goddess mother show these invaders what happens when the foolish enter their forest in search of immortality? I don't know. I don't really like anime, and these days I'm disinclined to believe Daenerys Targaryen could conquer my backyard. So I, Miles Schneiderman, will be your thoroughly skeptical judge this week. Arguing for San and Moro are Kit Mulcairn.
Shut up! I'm a wolf! 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 I'm a wolf!
Nicolas Cage is smiling right now. He doesn't know why, but he's smiling. And Megan Bob.
So for a battle like this, a poem from a great troupe of bards. Straddle the line in discord and rhyme. I'm on the hunt. I'm after you. Mouth is alive with juices like wine. And I'm hungry like the wolf.
Oh, beautiful. Arguing for Daenerys and Drogon are Colin Mulcairn.
Bullshit cannot kill a Mulcairn.
And Dan Mulcairn.
Come not between the dragon and his wrath, or his Pringles, or his coffee. Definitely not his coffee. Oh, and don't try to talk to him between the hours of 4 and 5. That's dragon's time.
Dragon sounds like a dad.
In order to determine who goes first, I asked each team to design a smartphone app that helps people determine who should go first in Smash Fiction matches.
Yay!
Team Daenerys' app was fucking terrible. It glitched all the time, it almost completely drained my battery every time I tried to use it, and the color scheme was, frankly, nausea-inducing.
Don't forget about the pop-up ads!
Team Mononoke's app was superior by far. I mean, I assume it was superior, since it really couldn't have been worse than the first one. Unfortunately, we'll never know, because Team Mononoke slapped a price on it, and I'm just not paying anything for a smartphone app, y'all. So, Team Daenerys wins by default, and will be going first this week.
Nice.
Rough.
Team Daenerys, if you win the overall match tonight, I hope it's more convincing than the way you won initiative.
With or without soldiers, with or without dragons, Daenerys Targaryen is a force to be reckoned with in a way unlike any other character in A Song of Ice and Fire. Most of the time, Daenerys is one of the most compassionate, caring, and understanding characters in the series. That all changes when you threaten her loved ones. Whether it's her giving her brother Viserys a molten golden crown after he threatens to cut out her unborn child, or burning Mirri Maz-Dur alive after the witch kills both her child and her husband, we see that when her family is threatened, Daenerys becomes absolutely murderous. The thing about this murderousness, though, is that it isn't an irrational, blinding rage that will lead her to making mistakes the way that Sansa's screaming, animalistic anger does. For Daenerys, her anger is cold, cruel, and clear. It enhances her logical mind, sharpening it to a deadly point. The moment she thinks that her dragon has been hurt, or even just threatened, she will go after San and Moro with a focused fury unlike anything they have ever encountered. One of the biggest advantages Daenerys has over San is her intellect. Daenerys is smart and quick-thinking enough to successfully navigate through the magical puzzles of the House of the Undying. She proves in Storm of Swords that she's capable of incredible acts of deception and subterfuge. She uses her manipulative capabilities to trick and overthrow the so-called Good Masters of Astapor. Later in the same book, she similarly lulls the rulers of Yunkai and the mercenaries called the Second Sons into a false sense of security, leaving them totally unprepared when she attacks 2 days earlier than she had led them to expect. These were wins of deception and manipulation against those whose life was all about deception and manipulation. If she can outmaneuver them, San, who is but a little girl and knows little of the ways of guile and subterfuge, will be nothing at all to trick, manipulate, and outmaneuver. So yeah, Daenerys is intimidating whether she has dragons or not. But in this case, guess what? She totally has a dragon. And what a dragon she has. Drogon's wing beats are like thunderclaps, and the heat from his fire breath is intense from 30 feet away. Every time he exhales, more of the forest will be consumed, meaning it's only going to get progressively more dangerous for San and Moro. But Drogon and Daenerys, both of whom can ignore fire or just fly above it altogether, will only get progressively stronger. Dragon bones have so much iron in them that they're black. Their scales are stronger than steel, and their blood is incredibly, intensely hot. Even if San or Moro manage to get a spear or a bite past Drogon's armor-like scales, they're just going to get a face full of boiling liquid. It's like fighting a xenomorph with a 20-foot wingspan and fire breath. Drogon has proven that he is an incredibly skilled and canny fighter. In A Dance with Dragons, a warrior attempts to leap onto Drogon and kill him with a spear. He gets one hit in before Drogon turns his head and tears the dude's arm off. He is then immediately confronted by numerous opponents from all sides at once, and he kills all of them. He vaporizes several with his fire breath. He rips one in half with his tail. One dude tries to go for his eyes, and Drogon just chomps him up with his teeth. He's deadly no matter what angle you approach him from. The dragons in Song of Ice and Fire are legitimate weapons of mass destruction. Historically speaking, every single battle in which one side had a dragon and the other didn't usually ended up being pretty embarrassing for the side without. Armies would go into full retreat if they received news that the dragon Caraxes was approaching. The mere threat of dragons was enough to force Torrhen Stark and Shara Aren to bend their respective knees. During the Battle of Harrenhal, the dragon Balerion the Black Dread used his breath weapon to melt the towers of Harrenhal. The stone towers of Harrenhal. There's a battle that took place during Aegon I Targaryen's War of Conquest called the Field of Fire. This battle featured the alliance of the Kingdoms of the Rock and the Reach, whose forces numbered 55,000, including 5,000 mounted knights. The Targaryens had a mere 11,000 soldiers. Oh yeah, and 3 dragons. So what were the results of the battle? The Targaryens lost fewer than 100 soldiers. The alliance against them lost 15,000 soldiers in the same amount of time before wisely deciding to surrender. If 3 dragons can take out 15,000 soldiers, I'm willing to bet that 1 dragon and his badass rider can take out 1 teenager and 1 wolf, no matter how big the wolf is. Between Daenerys and San, Daenerys is smarter, more manipulative, more disciplined, and won't break into melodramatic teenage tears when things get rough. Between Drogon and Moro, Drogon has the edge in terms of size, strength, durability, flight, and being able to vaporize anything that gets too close. Team Mononoke might want to consider moving to the beach, or maybe the city, because one way or another, they won't be able to stay in this forest for much longer. It is known.
Princess Mononoke is not much of an action movie. It's really more of a morally gray characters fail to prevent shitty things from happening to each other and themselves movie, so I guess it's whatever genre Fargo is in. Because of this, there aren't really a lot of scenes where we get to see San in action. There's one main sequence where San gets a chance to show off her martial prowess, when she shows up in Irontown to assassinate Lady Eboshi, and needless to say, Lady Eboshi is still very much alive at the end of it. So let's just do a play-by-play of this assassination attempt. San rides on Wolfback up towards Irontown. She's not trying to be stealthy, just riding out in the open towards the town, and she's outnumbered like crazy, so not really clear what her plan is here. She's spotted by a guard in a tower who rings a bell and starts shooting at her before she even reaches the outer gates. She stands menacingly for a bit on a rooftop, eyeballing Lady Eboshi, which is really cool looking, but not particularly tactically sound. Eboshi's followers now have all the time in the world to load up their guns and aim them at San, and San just keeps standing up there on the rooftop, looking cool. Do you even stealth, bro? So, San is clearly outmatched and outnumbered, and Ashitaka shows up and warns her of this, tells her she should get out of here while she can, but rather than running away, she charges in towards Lady Eboshi and the townspeople open fire. The roof that San is standing upon gets hit, it falls apart, and San falls down onto the street. She then gets back up, only to immediately get shot in the face! And she's only saved because the mask that she was wearing protects her, but it shatters and she's knocked to the ground unconscious. Then she's about to get attacked by a big old mob of townspeople, and the only reason she lives is because Ashitaka again puts himself between them and her and protects her. Then San wakes up from a little nap and she starts attacking Ashitaka. Up until now, he has always refused to fight her when she has attacked him, and he has warned her of danger. And he is right now saving her ass from an angry mob, and he is still refusing to fight her, and she still can't recognize him as a friend. And then, rather than running away, after just getting pwned by Eboshi's followers, and still clearly outnumbered, San charges back into the fray and this time finally makes it to Lady Eboshi. Eboshi just smiles and parries or dodges every strike that San throws, and San is growling and barking at her, giving it everything she's got, and Eboshi just keeps smiling, never losing her cool, never losing control, just toying with San and completely dominating her. And again, she only lives through this fight with Eboshi because of more of Ashitaka's intervention. So in terms of her fighting ability, San fights like an animal. And that sounds like a compliment until you realize that this is simply a byproduct of the fact that she thinks like an animal in all aspects of her life. And having the strength of a human and the intelligence of a wolf is very much not a winning combination, especially when you're forced to confront the cool-headed and cold-blooded calculating reptile that is Daenerys Targaryen. San wanted Irontown destroyed, so what did she do? She went to go destroy it. She rode into her town with a spear and a knife and tried to kill their leader. And that was the entire extent of her plan. No backup, no disguise, not even any attempts at stealth. Even when the situation had completely turned to shit, she did not retreat or modify her tactics at all. And what else does San manage to accomplish over the course of Princess Mononoke? She rides into battle alongside Akoto despite knowing that him and his army of boars are going into a trap where they're all going to be killed. She doesn't manage to convince him to give up on this suicide mission, and she also fails to protect him and his warriors like at all, since all of them get killed and Akoto gets mortally wounded. Then, she is unable to convince Akoto that the humans around him wearing boar skins aren't real boars, and that maybe Akoto shouldn't lead them into the secret grove of the deer god. Then she stands protecting Akoto from the humans and threatens to kill the first one who moves. Then they all move and attack Akoto, and she manages to kill none of them. Then she fails to keep Akoto from turning into a demon, and she gets grabbed by his demon tentacles, and she has to be saved by your standard end-of-the-movie deer ex machina. And then Eboshi and her crew show up, and she fails to prevent the deer god from getting its head shot off. So at any point in this movie, does San ever do anything that's actually impressive? I mean, don't get me wrong, I admire the kid's gusto, but acting solely from a place of emotion with no capacity for even medium-term thinking is a sign that San was, well, literally raised by wolves. And let's talk about that wolf of hers. Moro is a really big wolf. And she, like San, only gets one real action scene where she gets to be a badass when she attacks Lady Eboshi's supply caravan. Much like her daughter, Moro just charges into the caravan head-on without much of a plan, and this ends up being a very short-lived attack because one of the guards manages to hit her with a shot from a weapon called a Panhuo Qi, which is basically a pre-modern Chinese flamethrower. That's right, she gets hit by a little bit of fire, and Moro leaps off of a cliff to avoid getting hit by any more. So apparently, if you're a wolf god, fire bad. Fire so bad if you're a wolf god that when you get hit by fire, you are willing to leap off a cliff to make it stop. Be a real shame if you had to fight some sort of creature that could fly around above you, out of your reach, and shoot fire down at you and your precious forest whenever it wanted. 'Cause dragon. Did we mention dragon? What sort of projectile attacks does Moro have at her dispensal apart from, I guess, her own head? Oh, but you have a really big wolf. That's pretty impressive, I guess. You know who else has really big wolves? The Starks. And how have things been turning out for them lately?
Okay. Hard-bitten points from Team Daenerys. Team Mononoke, if you win the overall match tonight, I hope you don't make me pay for the privilege of telling you so, you greedy fucks.
You just flew into the wrong neighborhood, motherfucker. Or just mother, I guess. How is motherhood going, by the way? Oh, well, don't feel too bad. They all go through that phase, you know. Well, except San, of course. You know, Princess Mononoke. Because San was raised right by a forest spirit so old she qualifies as a god. Moro, the Great White Wolf. And side note, yes, I realize this has forever locked me in as the official Smashfic advocate for Japanese wolf characters.
It's alright, I'm apparently locked in as the advocate for mummies, so it's fine.
Divine Japanese wolf characters.
Alright, let's get real here. Despite the title of this episode, this ain't actually a match about humans and their badass animals. This is a match about badass animals and their humans. Moro is at least 200, judging by her suck and tail and size. That's, what, over 10 times the life experience and wisdom of Dany? And don't even tell me that her experience counts for less because she hasn't seen the shit Dany's seen. Fuck your human-centrist bullshit. Most wild wolves die by their 8th year. Moro's survived everything nature and humankind have thrown at her, and is at least as intelligent as the average human. Before the battle between the humans and the Boar tribe, Moro accurately assesses the trap the humans have set for them. She has more than the brute strength that her size grants her. She has wisdom and cunning, and that is much more than can be said for Drogon. And even if Moro had the intelligence of a wolf, Dany and Drogon would still be boned, because this fuck-off huge wolf can take damage while she's taking names like it's her job. During an attack on Lady Eboshi and her men, Moro takes a bullet to the neck, followed by a point-blank blast of flames. Yeah, I see you, Colin. Then falls off the edge of the cliff. She left dozens dead and injured in her wake, and was able to continue on for days afterwards. The fire and fall did nothing to her. The only thing that ultimately took her life was the bullet trapped inside her neck. But unlike the boar god in the opening scene of the movie, she did not succumb to the pain and rage. This is ancient Japan, where old enough animals become gods, and gods can become demons if their willpower is eaten away by chaotic, negative emotions. Moro ultimately dies never having become a demon. Oh wait! She doesn't actually die until after her head detaches and chomps Lady Eboshi's arm clean off. That's what a god's gonna give to ya. Hashtag sorry, not sorry, Colin. Now, let's talk about Moro's human child for a bit. San had to run with wolves. San had to grow up without so much that we take for granted. Agriculture, fire, wheels. Wheels are pretty fucking great, y'all. When was the last time you fucking said thank you to a wheel?
I'm gonna go do that right now.
Yeah, you should, because if that wheel gets 100 years old, it's gonna turn to a yokai. You want it on your side. You want that on your side. But I digress.
If they would stop becoming flat and rolling with my bike, I would be more thankful.
It gave its life for you. I digress. San, having been literally raised by wolves, had to learn to keep up with them and contribute to the pack. Thus, she has grown into an incredibly badass teenager, able to leap great distances, perform all manner of parkour stunts, and swiftly attack her prey with spears and knives. That, by the way, the wolves could not have taught her. She obviously had to teach herself that in order to contribute to hunts, and she taught herself well. No one in Irontown was fast or skilled enough to fight her except for Lady Eboshi, who clearly has combat training of her own. Can Team Daenerys really claim that Dany has the training to keep up with someone who has had to kill to survive her entire life? Remember when I mentioned the neighborhood? Our neighborhood? I'm sure you think aerial superiority is going to be an aspect in your favor, but not only do San and Moro have cover, they know the cover like the back of their respective hand and paw. That doesn't work so well, shit. If Drogon and Dany stay above the canopy, they won't have a clear shot at the Wolf Clan or be able to keep them within sight at all times. This leaves them open to ambush. What happens when a spear suddenly shoots out of the trees, tearing a hole in Drogon's wing, or through Dany? And if Drogon uses fire, this forest is way too moist and alive to erupt into a full-blown forest fire. It's not like every fire just boofs, just bursts into flames at the slightest cinder. There'll be spot fires at worst, and fire won't stop Moro. Ultimately, Dany will have to have Drogon enter the forest itself, and there Drogon will lose his aerial grace and mobility. If, he doesn't just disobediently fuck off first. You enter Moro's house with that long-ass neck, and you just askin' for a chompin'. Meanwhile, Dany is basically defenseless against San's knives and hatred of humans. Lastly, just look at the motivations here. Dany is an invader, but there are no slaves here to liberate and no army to back her up in her quest to become queen. To Dany, this forest will be a mistake, but to Moro and San, this forest is everything. Their home, their culture, their entire lives. And they've shown they are not afraid to die to protect it. Or die but not actually die and animate their disembodied head to eat your faces. So, how's that for team spirit?
Daenerys Targaryen does not fight her own battles. She just doesn't. She can't, actually. I mean, she could if she ever learned how to use a weapon or throw a punch, but she has no training in combat and no skills in weaponry. She wins through her resources, not her own skills in battle, or even in knowing about battle. In a fight without her fight daddies, the battle equivalent of sugar daddies, she's never beaten a physical attack. So if Dany's not a tactician, maybe Drogon is. Well, he does manage to evade a bunch of regular humans trying to capture him, but he's not an intelligent critter. Humans try to capture him 3 times in the exact same spot that he likes to chill out in, and he doesn't catch on until time 3, and then he just pisses off across the sea without even leaving a note for his mom. Drogon takes quite a while to learn from his mistakes, and he's big enough to get away with that when dealing with ordinary humans. But a horse-sized, hyper-intelligent wolf warrior spirit and her fighter daughter are going to be too much for that little reptile brain. He can't spot patterns or anticipate attacks like Moro and San can. Well, maybe Drogon's affection for the mother of dragons will make him rise to the task, right? Don't count your dragons before they hatch. At the very beginning of A Dance with Dragons, Dany's kept company by Viserion and Rhaegal and thinks her dragons were growing wild of late. When given a choice, grown-up Drogon could give a fuck about spending time with mom. And Dany doesn't know the kind of stuff her scaly son gets up to. Just a big dragon screech. I'm going out! Where? Out! Cue huffy teenage flapping. He doesn't have much incentive to keep her alive, and when Dany's shitting the entirety of her guts out and having visions because she's so sick, Drogon's in his room, ignoring her. He tolerates her riding him, but he never purposefully gets between her and danger once he reaches puberty. In his own right, Drogon's got extremely limited combat experience. He's never fought anything remotely as intelligent or as powerful as Moro. He's fought other dragons that have his exact same skill set. He's fought humans trying to capture rather than kill him, and one spear dude. The majority of the killing he's done has been sheep, and sheep are not an impressive measure of prowess. Yes, he does fly. That's awesome. But that just means he has 2 enormous wings as targets. A single hole through which would impair his maneuvering, if not make him crash. San only has to get a spear through a wing, and he's going to be at a disadvantage that would change his flying immediately, and open him up to an easy attack from Moro. That long neck presents a pretty easy target for latching on. And Drogon isn't intelligent enough to spot an attack coming. Sure, dragonhide is tough, but not too tough for Moro to pierce. A regular wolf has a bite force of up to 1,200 pounds, and just a regular dude with a spear is able to dig into Drogon's flesh. Not only that, when Drogon is on the ground, a regular dude who has never touched a dragon in his life manages to jump up onto Drogon's back and get a hit in. This guy is such a nobody, he doesn't even have a name in the book.
Sorry, I just realized that everybody has a name in this book.
I know! That's the fucking miracle of this, is that it's a fucking George R. R. Martin character who doesn't get a name, who manages to do a thing. You know what? His name's Jerry. Jerry the fucking Dragon Spearman. Okay.
Dragon poker extraordinaire.
Yeah, Dragon Poker Jerry. God damn it, Jerry, what you doing?
Poking this dragon.
You know? Fuck off, Jerry, you're crazy. I don't know why I suddenly we're in like the deep south. This is taking place in Georgia. Okay. Right after that, Drogon nearly kills his mom, biting a few inches from her face. Dany has a moment of realization that Drogon will literally kill her if she turns her back or moves away from him. She has to whip the frick out of her teenage son to get him to obey her, and even then, he still flames her and causes her skin to blister. Don't you talk to your mother that way, you little shit! Shut up, you're not my real mom! Barristan Selmy, a man who is old as balls and knows stuff, acknowledges that in the coming war, the dragons are gonna do whatever the fuck they want, and that may be for their side, or it may not, because dragons obey no one. Dany finds this out when stranded across the sea because, as she notes, sometimes it did not seem to matter where she struck him. Neither whip nor words could turn Drogon if he did not wish to be turned. Being the mother of dragons doesn't mean she can control her son. Drogon's making his own rules, and his bedtime is never!
So precious.
Alright, that was great. Truly mouth-watering arguments from Team Mononoke or something. Whatever, we're going to rebuttals now. Team Daenerys, Dracarys.
Yeah. I want to talk a bit about that last thing that Megan Bob was talking about, which is her implication that Daenerys has a difficult time controlling Drogon.
Implication.
And,
okay.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
Now, the part that you were talking about was in Dance with Dragons when Drogon is in that arena. You have to realize that is worst case scenario stuff. He was getting attacked. She was trying to stop him from fighting back. They'd been separated from each other for a while. And you're right, like, she realizes she could very well die trying to stop him, and yet she doesn't flinch for a second. She stares death down directly in the face the whole time. And despite, again, this being worst case scenario, Drogon is at his worst, Daenerys still manages to survive his breath weapon and get him under control. She's not bad at controlling Drogon. She's amazing at controlling Drogon. The only time Daenerys is ever shown having difficulty controlling him is when she tries to stop him from destroying something. And I promise you, she will not be trying to stop him from destroying these two competitors here today.
You think Drogon's not gonna get attacked here? He's gonna be coming under, well, wolfy fire, so to speak.
Yeah, but the people that he was coming under attack from in that arena were people that Dany did not want him to fight. That is not going to be the issue here.
So she hadn't seen him for a long time because he didn't fucking want to be seen? Like, he just fucked off? She has trouble controlling him there, and then she has trouble controlling him much better whenever she's away from everybody, off in the wilderness with just a girl and her dragon.
You mean when she's dying of dysentery? She's having difficulty?
Yeah, but he's still, like, even before she started dying of dysentery, he's still a recalcitrant little shit.
Yeah, and she still manages to control him. That's amazing.
You know, you're a bad trainer when you have to
does.
fight to control your creature multiple times.
Yes, she won't be able to get Drogon to stop killing your characters. Yes, we will submit that. No matter how hard she tries, Drogon will kill you too.
The book also mentions numerous times how hard it is for her to keep her seat while she's writing him, and that she almost falls off numerous times. And those are in non-battle situations.
You said that, when you said that the forest wouldn't be able to be lit by the slightest cinder, it's not, oh yes, the slightest cinder will not be enough, and we're not saying it's going to be the slightest cinder. We're going to say it's sustained, like, huge amounts of dragon fire, like, raining down upon the forest.
Right.
There's going to be some forest fires.
Right, he's got to have, like, a very, very sustained blast in an area to get it to light up. Like, efficiently.
And he will.
And it's not gonna spread well, because if you think, okay, listen here, weeaboo mode, activate!
I fucking researched which forest this was based off of, and it is in a humid subtropical region.
I did some research on this too. My research was, watching the movie Princess Mononoke, we see in the flashback that there is a huge section of the forest on fire, like he's running past it, squealing in pain.
Wait, the very first scene?
No, there's a flashback later in the scene.
Yeah, that's a different forest.
It's from the same area, though.
No, it's not. This Prince of Inishi travels a long way to get to this special forest.
But, okay, dragonfire can melt stone. Do you think that those little flamethrowers that the humans were using can melt stone? Do you think that they can melt steel, which dragonfire can also do?
I think you'll definitely burn some trees to, like, ash instantly, but I'm not really worried about massive fires. Moro was like, all right, I'm good.
Well, then why did she peace out when she was getting hit by the fire?
Because why would you want to stand there getting hit by fire?
Why would you want to jump off a cliff?
Because it's no big deal.
If it's no big deal, then stay and keep fighting and kill Eboshi.
Obviously, that implies that fire is then a big deal for her. Which is
otherwise
big
she would have tried to fight Eboshi more. She was right by her.
What is annoying is a damn cliff. And you're not going to be by a cliff. You're going to be in her territory.
We might be by a cliff.
So then you'll have nothing to jump off of, and we'll just burn you alive.
Good, I can dash around Drogon.
So Daenerys fucking hates whenever innocent people get injured. The moment those little Kodama bodies start falling, she's going to burst into tears and go, "This was a mistake. Drogon, stop it! The Kodama are dying!"
That's a very good point.
That's what's going to happen.
She's a monster.
They're like spirits and ghosts and stuff, though. So I don't know. One, I don't know if fire's going to hurt them, and two, I don't know if she's going to like.
Seeing them fall is going to be pretty fucking traumatic for somebody whose whole thing is saving people.
Die.
The Kodama don't show up in Princess Mononoke except in periods of stillness and serenity. They actively hide from humans who are violent.
We see them dying,
right?
But in the climax.
But they're not showing themselves.
That's when after the god gets his head cut off. Though
that's a cataclysmic event. If you guys want to say that you're bringing out the tree spirit so that we can kill it, that's a different fight altogether. So in this fight, those things won't show themselves at all.
So you're admitting that this forest fire you can create is not a cataclysmic event.
Not in the sense that we're going to kill off the spirit of the
we're not
forest.
going to kill the deer god.
Final point from Team Daenerys.
You brought up the fact that Drogon has never fought giant wolves. How many times has Moro fought dragons? You were claiming that, like, San could hit Drogon's wing with a spear. How many times do we see her hit something with that spear? and you think she'll be able to hit a dragon's wing in flight? That is insanity.
That is fair. We have
He's
to
huge.
infer certain things.
His wing's huge. It's
Yeah.
like 7 billion cars.
Yeah, enough that it makes
together.
a thunderclap when he beats downward, which I'm gonna guess is gonna knock away a
exactly.
tiny spear.
You think that she uses that spear as a toothpick? Like, what the fuck do you think a wolf woman uses a spear for?
I don't know. I haven't seen her do it.
Fishing?
Yeah, I haven't seen her use it for anything useful in that movie.
Fishing
All right.
for dragons.
Yeah.
All right.
So cruel.
Sky fishing.
That was fiery, Team Daenerys. I'll bet that Team Mononoke at this point is howling mad. So,
Yeah.
Oh.
so it's
More
their turn.
puns, more puns.
It's their turn for rebuttals. Team Mononoke, rip their arms off with your decapitated heads.
Okay, Dan.
Yes, Bob.
You said the thing about the fucking golden crown and Mary Mazdur as though Dany had anything to do with those? So for the golden crown one, what happened was she didn't fight back whenever Khal Drogo, Hottie McHotpants, melted down the gold.
As he
and
is
it was
otherwise known.
Hey, brother, allow me to then
Of Clan
give you
McHotpants?
this molten
But-
gold on your face. And then with Mary Mazdur, she just ordered other people to do it.
Yeah.
That's what she's good at delegating.
Yeah, my
but who's she
argument-
going to delegate to?
My argument wasn't that she is super skilled at pouring molten gold on people, or that
Well,
she's...
you're saying she's skilled at fighting in some way or combat.
No,
Or...
my argument was when you threaten people that she considers to be her family, she becomes murderous. A lot of times, yes, she directs that murderousness through other people or other creatures like her dragons. But I'm just saying, when you threaten Drogon, that's when you're going to see any semblance of kid gloves burn right off of her.
And what is she gonna do?
Interesting because she did lock up her other 2 babies. So, okay.
The fuck?
Yeah, what kind of mother is she? I mean, the kind that cares about her people mostly, but yeah. And also that you're like the lying and the puzzle solving is going to help. I'm not sure. I don't see how she's going to lie to the wolf, but okay.
Okay, so you were like, dragons have the bones like as hard as iron, which is dope, I'll give you that. But that doesn't mean that your fucking spinal cord is. Drogon's spine can still snap with a shake of Moro's jaws.
Drogon's head has much greater reach than hers does because he has a much longer neck. He can hold it upright and snap at her before she can get into reach. That's assuming she gets past his fire breath range,
Hey.
which is significantly further.
We've seen that she
And
jumps
his
very
flight.
well.
Yeah, also assuming she can jump high enough to hit him when he's in the
You're gonna
air.
have to come down eventually, and you're not so good down here.
No, I'll just vaporize those trees, dude. And I'm also pretty good on the ground.
Is he with that
Not really.
wingy setup? That's really not that style of
He's pretty
dragon.
It's
Stable.
pretty good for battering away people who are trying to go for your neck, as is his tail.
Except for Jerry, the poker.
Yeah, who died after he poked Drogon. That was
Only
the
because he
poking.
fell off.
Right.
Yeah,
was just a
poking that
rando.
dragon was the last mistake he ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just goes
Yeah,
to
but
show.
he was a random no-name motherfucker, and he still got a hit in.
You're right. Drogon
Don't
is
tell me
pokeable
fucking
and Moro
Super
is
Wolf
burnable.
No, she
Yeah, okay,
isn't.
so you'll get one hit in, and then you will die from burning blood and also more fire.
She stood against this fucking back when Okoto was like basically going demon. She was all up in his face, getting all attacked by the little tendrils of like acidic necrotic-y damage, and she was fine.
No, she got cursed and she was gonna die, but she had to get the curse removed by the deer, and she had to get pulled out of the deer as well. If he hadn't come along, she would have died.
Right, from the bullet. The bullet is ultimately what did her in, just like it did in the boar.
I mean, ultimately, yes, but she would have died from those acidic tendrils if the deer god hadn't come.
Right, and yet, but she's not like dropping dead right away. You're making it sound like Drogon's gonna take her out like this. She has so much willpower. The way I'm seeing it, fire blast to the face, jumps out of the way, flanks Drogon, maybe tears a wing, he suddenly can't fly anymore. She has wolf agility. And Drogon's gonna have his head spinning.
Look, I
love
What form
dragons.
of wolf martial arts does she have? Because we have Dragon
them.
Krav Maga.
She got wolf jutsu.
Here's what I'll say.
Dragon Krav Maga and Wolf Jutsu.
Did they
All right.
teach that in the dragon military?
Yeah. Here's what I have
Okay.
to say. If I have my choice of 2 opponents, one of them has a feudal era Japan musket, and the other is a dragon with dragon fire. I think my chances of surviving a successful attack are much better
Yeah.
against the musket guy.
So one of the things that you talked about was how great she is at flying Drogon, and that she's has kind of the lineage of the Targaryens in her that allows her to be super great at this. So the Targaryens, like, one of the reasons why they were able to be so successful is because they had been breeding dragons and studying how to ride them and had sort of passed that knowledge down along the lineage. She has been out in the wilderness, relatively speaking, has never read any of the shit, probably because it was all burned, because, you know, the Targaryens were crazy. And then she is only learning from herself. So she has none of that skill or training or knowledge or ability to gain it. She's just kind of
just like how San taught herself to make spears and knives, like you said, she's self-taught as well.
Except that San had to do that to survive day-to-day life, and Daenerys has had to do this to, like, see if she could do it.
The thing you're
missing... This is the difference between somebody going to the Hamptons and somebody who lives in the woods.
The thing you're missing, the reason that the previous Targaryens had to spend so much time training is because they were riding their dragons into war. They had to be prepared for archers shooting at them from multiple angles and, like, siege weapons fired at them. And in some cases, other dragons flying at them. They had to study for a long time because they were going into the worst possible battlefield scenarios. Daenerys is going up against one girl and one wolf, only one of which apparently has a ranged attack, although I kind of doubt that San knows how to throw her spear.
No, we said her own head. That's Moro can throw her own head.
Those are their ranged attacks. It's not going to take a lot of, like, enhanced aerial maneuvering in order to stay out of their way.
Can Drogon fight after parts of him have come off? Like his fucking head?
How are
his
you
blood
going to
can
I still have yet to hear a convincing argument from you guys as to how you're going to land a single hit.
Okay, you were trying to trash San when she was fighting Lady Eboshi. Dany is no Lady Eboshi in combat.
Yeah.
So like, why would you even bother comparing?
Because the difference between the two of them, the similarities between the two of them is that they're both disciplined and they're both calm and cool-headed.
The thing I was trying to bring up was not her martial prowess necessarily in terms of, like, her reaction time or speed or whatever, that kind of thing, or balance or whatever. It was more of just her lack of any sort of tactics or battle plan when she fights. It's just that San charges in head first against superior foes without any sort of plan or anything like that. And the way that she fought against Eboshi was really dumb and never should have worked. And, like, she has apparently tried to kill her multiple times and it's never worked. And she apparently never hatches any sort of different plan or any sort of more advanced plan. She's just going off this very direct way. And if she tries that against Dany, it's just not going to go well for her.
Yeah. How is it not going to go well? Because I see Moro distracting Drogon and then Dany is defenseless against San's attack.
I don't see them separating from one another.
Yeah, like the one fight that counts the most definitively as a victory for San in the movie is when she gets attacked by that single nameless monk. Speaking of nameless enemies in these sources, yes. They fight for about 10 seconds, and she kicks him and then runs away before he can counterattack. Like, that is the best she does in an actual fight. We never actually see her claim a decisive victory on anyone.
What is Dany even doing in this match? It sounds like we're just fighting Drogon.
Well, I mean, we're going to try to do our best to make it so that Dany doesn't actually have to fight. She's going to stay on Drogon and stay in the air for the most part, and neither one of the two characters that you guys have are capable of formulating some sort of plan to get them out of the air. Yeah, so I think that we're going to be able to dictate the range and the positioning of the match.
And Daenerys is definitely smart enough and, like, empathetic and compassionate enough and has spent enough time around wild animals to know exactly how San is going to attack, because she attacks the same way every time as a wild animal.
This is... I'm... Anyway.
Are you too sober for the shit?
This may have to be decided by the shit coming next, and that's not a great thing.
Hell yeah!
Both competitors and their animal companions are beaten, bruised, battered, and bitten, but before the battle can be finished, a bright light suddenly explodes out of the air between them. Could it be the lightning round?
Yes!
Oh my
Fire
God.
And blood and lightning round.
Oh no, you're gonna get shot out of the sky by lightning.
It's okay, lightning doesn't affect birds in flight, so it won't affect dragons either.
Well, it's certainly something. Daenerys vaguely recognizes it as the same light that shone around her when she passed from the Dothraki Sea to the forest. Only this time, when it vanishes, there is an elegantly dressed woman standing there where no woman was there before. Jesus, the woman says, glancing at the pair of them. I just meant to get you two on the same planet. I didn't think you'd start fighting. Would have been here sooner, but I had a major deal to finish. It was bad news. Seeing the baffled looks on the faces of Dany and San, the woman continues, But never mind that now. Look, my name is Vosh. I'm a human being just like the two of you, except for the fact that I've been given godlike powers, sorry,
Shut up,
Colin,
I'm a wolf!
by an alien race called the Q. I brought you here because I need your help. Without getting into it too much, I'm trying to make some money off the smart tricorder fad. It's all the rage on the Ferengi homeworld right now, and it's starting to get big on Romulus too. Makes sense. The thing is just like a regular tricorder, only more compact and with access to basically all the information in the galaxy right at your fingertips. Problem is, the whole fancy new way of the future thing is starting to get old for some people. No pun intended. Especially the kids. Trust me, nobody can do market research like I can, and everything I'm seeing says that what's really going to be selling over the next few years are things with sort of a rustic, archaic feel to them. Like, people want it to be digital, but they want it to feel like analog, And Lord knows I'm too mentally advanced to be able to think along those lines, so I figured I'd just grab a couple of teenagers from random worlds like yours and ask them to design an app for me. You understand what I'm saying? Dany and San are literally speechless. Vosh snaps her fingers. A light flashes. There, now you actually do understand what I'm saying.
That's convenient from a plot standpoint.
The Q are great in that regard, man. Why do you think they come back so often? I need an app that's hip but also retro. Something cool, but only because it's something that used to be cool. Something that says, hey, look how independent and off the grid you are while you're using a device that's totally dependent on its connection to every grid in existence. What do you say? Can you help a girl make some bars of latinum? So, what kind of smart tricorder app does your character design?
Jeez.
What's it do? What features does it have? How does it get its visual appeal? Essentially, how will it rise above and beyond all the other apps to the extent that somebody might actually pay money for it? Team Daenerys went first in the main round, so Team Mononoke will go first in the lightning round. Team Mononoke, wow me.
All right. So this app it's forest-based. Soft title for now is Forest Forage. It does a lot of different things, but one of the things that it does is that it helps you identify things you can stick in your face and things you should not stick in your face. And also does urban foraging, which people are super into right now because everybody loves to see something growing next to the bus stop and go, I could eat that and I would have to pay so much for that at the farmer's market normally. But it does a lot of other things that we think are really important. So it does fire warnings to let you know, like, look, how is there a fire coming? How soon should I go foraging before all my food is burnt? Or are there things that might grow immediately after a fire that I should be on the lookout for, like some premium mushrooms or some shit? Also, it's beautiful. It looks like the forest of Yakushima. Like, that's the background, is these growing trees.
Oh,
and the further you get in your, like, you sort of get points for what you forage for if you take a picture of it. Obviously, you have to upload it to their Instagram, and then your forest keeps growing, and you get these little Kodama icons.
I think we've explained everything except, why would you spend money on this, right? So, if you pay just $1, you can access an awesome geocaching game, and almost all the proceeds of that go to helping your local forest. And this awesome, sweet-ass geocaching game is going to take you through some of the most amazing hiking spots imaginable.
Oh. In Star Trek, there are some pretty great hiking spots.
There you go.
Oh my god, so much great hiking spots. They look a lot like they're near California, but it's interesting like that.
Pay an extra $1 and the wolves won't attack you, they promise.
The other thing that it does that's it's a little bit of a weird feature, but kind of the opposite of Google Maps, like it'll tell you how close you are to something. It will tell you how far you are away from humans because fuck them.
Yes, fuck them. It's got filthy human sightings also, and like forest fire warnings.
Exactly. And like every time there's a filthy human sighting, it's just a poop emoji.
Yeah, when you hiking, why would you want to pass by a fucking human? They're just gonna leave trash.
I like that. That's gonna go over really well with the Romulans, I feel like.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the Klingons like that a lot.
Yeah. All right. Team Daenerys, what do you got?
I'm thinking that Dany's making an app. It's called Usurper. It's spelled USURPR, of course. And the basic idea is it's a dating app for royalty.
Oh, wow.
I see where this is going.
you like basically list what sort of like territories you have control over of and how many like soldiers you command and that kind of thing. And it helps match you against other aspiring rulers so that you can have mutually beneficial marriages. You like list all of like the enemies that you want eliminated, so you make sure to get other people who are on the same page with eliminating these enemies and that kind of thing.
Colin, is it Tinder for cousins?
That's the tagline.
Yep.
You know that
Pretty
app in
much.
Iceland where like it's a dating app where you have to check it to make sure that you're not related to the person you're considering dating? It's like that, but the exact opposite. Like you're checking to make sure that you're closely related enough to the person.
To keep the bloodlines pure.
Exactly.
Yeah, pure.
You've created an app to ensure more incest.
Yeah.
I have a different app in mind. Daenerys is royalty. You know, she is a queen. But she's also very connected to her people, to the people that she rules over, and she hasn't forgotten about their struggles. Some of her subjects are hipsters, and there's a couple of trends that are real popular with hipsters right about now. The first is a sort of urban cowboy look, you know, the button-up shirt and like the jeans and the cowboy boots and stuff. And the other trend is, of course, ride-sharing and green energy. So we are proud to announce KLSI, of course, because it can't be, you know, helpful spelling on an app. In big cities like New York and London, where people don't use cars all the time, and keeping a car in a parking space if you're not going to use it all the time is kind of impractical, but like every now and again you want to use a car or you want to use some sort of vehicle aside from public transit, they have apps where you can sign in and pay a fee, and you get access to a car that has been parked nearby for you. Or you get access to a bike that has been parked nearby to you. So it's like that, but with horses, which are, of course, the ultimate green energy. They emit no harmful greenhouse gases. And they're not cows, come on. And the good thing about this app is, you know, sort of like ride-sharing apps like Lyft or Uber, you get to rate your horse at the end of your experience. And then, of course, your horse gets to rate you. So, you know, it sort of it helps out everyone, the horses and the riders. And then you can tip your horse at the end. You know, you can give them a sugar cube. You can give them a sugar cube.
It'll give you 1 to 5
or an apple.
stomps.
Oh, I was thinking 1 to 5 carrots was what it was.
Oh, okay, that works too.
But yeah, you can tip your horse at the end. You know, you can give them a sugar cube or an apple. And so it's really going to change the face of transportation in modern cities. And I think it's going to be really helpful.
You got an app rating system for the horse that you ride over to do your incest. All right.
Yeah.
That's great.
One hand washes the other. There's even a discount if you use both apps at once.
Oh my god, dude! That's the most beautiful use of that phrase I've ever heard.
All right, so
I will, on my deathbed, I'll go, one time Dan Mulcairn said one hand.
So what if it turns out you're related to the horse, and then you want to, you know what? I'm going to stop there.
That's what we call one-stop shopping.
Oh no! I'm out.
Man.
Bye.
That's my line, kid. I am going to go try and
Let's go
work this
together
out.
away from these dirty people.
No, you stay.
Oh, okay.
Talk more
fine.
nonsense.
You know what? This was a really funny match, I feel like. I feel like we were all on top of our fun game.
Yeah. This was also just a fun match. Anytime there's dragons involved in a match, I'm pretty happy about it.
I do love dragons, but I also love Japanese things, especially Shinto-related things.
Well, I do find this to be an interesting setup for this match, not in terms of like, you know, the characters and the match we gave them, but the fact that the last two people who advocated for Daenerys Targaryen are now advocating against her, and the person who judged against her is now advocating for her. So, you know, that old smash fiction wheel just keeps on turning.
Yeah. We'll see how the ruling goes on this one, because, I mean, the last time that I was representing a dragon...
with Miles as the judge.
Dan was with... Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. I don't see how a dragon can lose. They fly around, the other one's on the ground, and you got the fire, and the other one doesn't have a projectile attack. Like, how do we not win? How do we not? I don't know.
I explained it pretty clearly. But.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is they don't have Stitch this time around.
There were charts.
Well, we'll see.
All right. Daenerys is one of 3 Song of Ice and Fire characters that we've had on this podcast, I believe. We had Daenerys, we've had Jon, and we've had Arya.
Oberyn.
Yeah, we also had Oberyn.
Oh, Oberyn. Yeah, okay.
Oh,
so
yeah, that was a good one.
So 4. And I believe, with the exception of Daenerys, they've all won.
Yeah, that's correct.
And last time when Daenerys lost, Kit and Bob were on Team Daenerys. And so it's weird because I feel like if I go Team Mononoke in this, then there's something wrong with Daenerys Targaryen. But if I go Team Dany, there's something wrong with Kit and Bob when Daenerys Targaryen's involved in a match.
I think deep in our hearts we all know that Dan was wrong. That's
I'm gonna have to go with Team Mononoke. Here's my reasoning behind this. A dragon is a tough ask. I don't care how big or how old of a wolf you are. But the very last thing that Kit said during rebuttals is, what is Daenerys doing during this fight? And you guys said she's keeping out of it and riding on dragonback, flying and trying to avoid things. And that's fine, except for the fact that Kit and Bob did a really good job of convincing me that she has a hard time with Drogon. So if her strategy, and I'm sure she does have a better strategic mind than San, but if her strategy is to keep out of it and to stay on Dragonback the whole time, I think she's going to have some problems. She's still not a fighter, and she's still a big part of this match. And even though, I hear you, Dan and Colin, that San doesn't do a whole lot of fighting and does even less winning at fights, she still uses weapons, lives in the wood, survives, and is defending her home. And I think that combined with the fact that I really want that Forest Forger app was enough to just barely push Team Mononoke over the edge. So
Miles, I'm so glad you don't want the cousin Tinder thing.
That is good news, I will say. You're wrong, but that's good.
I often am, but my ruling remains.
Yes,
good job, both teams.
Yep, good job,
good
job, Team Mononoke.
Oh my god, no, you guys brought it. I felt the fire in the blood. I felt the rage of the Targaryens. I felt the craziness in their eyes, and I was afraid.
Yeah, I was afraid, as you should be when you stare into a dragon's face, because dragons are fucking awesome. So before I give thanks, I just want to give a little reminder to people. Please put a period before the @SmashFiction if you want to tweet at us. Everyone who isn't already subscribed to Smash Fiction will see it too.
That's only if you're starting a tweet with @SmashFic Podcast.
That is correct. So thank you to all the people who tweet about us, at us, and retweet our episodes and stuff. Thank you to Cosplay Fiend, Jake the Fake Jake, Florian, Sharon Holden Schneiderman, the Politipop Podcast, Vander Turner, and Neil Butler. On Tumblr, thank you to Sid Rabbit Blog, Little Keep a Pale, Jeep Rhyme, and Changing Shades. And on Facebook, thank you to Jeffrey Ketchum, Daniel Kidder, and Viola Sanderlin for sharing our stuff.
And thank you also to all of our patrons. In particular this week, the two featured patrons, Michelle Cohey and Daniel Coble, who were interesting and outspoken members of Irontown this week. So if you too would like a weird NPC identity, you can do so by joining our Patreon. And if you join our Patreon, you can also vote on matches, such as this one, which was chosen by our patrons. We put up the poll, gave them a week, they voted for it, and this one won, if I'm not mistaken, Kit, by a single vote.
By
one vote.
It was a very close back and forth for a very long time between a lot of the ones.
We had like a three-way tie for several days straight.
A last ballot came in at the 11th hour.
So if you want to put your bean on the scale, as it were, then, jump on over to Patreon, see what else we can offer you. We also have a new iTunes review I would like to share.
Oh, sweet.
Yay!
So this one comes from either Gangoose or Gang-Oose or Gangoose. Not entirely sure.
I like it when you don't know.
I'm going to go with Gangoose.
Gangoose.
Oh, no, I want to imagine a goose is typing this. That's going to be my head.
Dan has offered you a selection.
A goose named Gangoose.
A gang of geese.
So this gang of geese titles their review, More Please, and gives us 5 stars. Oh. And they say, this is a tremendously entertaining and obsessively researched series that answers the question, who would win in a fight between X and Y? Or rather, it answers iteration after iteration of this question, tackling ones most people never thought to ask. For my money, the episode in which the characters from Seinfeld were pitted against John Carpenter's The Thing, episode 52, marked a new stage in the development of the host's various personalities and powers. The framing of the matchup was creative, delightful, and completely bonkers, and everyone brought their A-games. The quality of matches continues to improve, and the inclusion of the expertly GM'd Extraordinary League actual play series keeps the podcast fresh and relevant? Question mark? Maybe not relevant, but that's not why I listen. I listen because this is just a lot of good nerdy fun. Try it.
Oh, that's
Yay.
awesome.
So, thanks. I know that geese typically have kind of a bad reputation, but you're alright in our book.
These are bad.
Yeah,
man.
I would feed you whatever it is geese should be fed.
I mean, clearly
'Cause
geese
it's
should
not
be
bread.
fed more episodes of our podcast. so
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Don't
more
worry,
episodes
we're
of
not
the
planning on
podcast.
stopping anytime soon. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, Granny Weatherwax versus Minerva McGonagall.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman and production assistant Sharon Schneiderman, with logo design by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin McLeod of the Clan McLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight. Mononoke. Mona nom nom nom.
Mononoke. It's like a good vocal warm-up. Mononoke, Mononoke, Mononoke.
Mononoke, 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 Mononoke. Okay, we're
You
good.
sound like you're praying. It's great.
I'm
I'm on with the forces with me. I'm on.
Yeah, that's right. Bob, the teenager metaphor really helped you a lot.
Oh my god, he is!
It was so good.
Because,
that was
because
amazing.
I just
in that
love
last point, I
screaming
was like,
teenage dog.
you're gonna rely on standing on the back of a fucking mopey-ass angsty kid? Is that what you're gonna do?
Okay, can we talk? San, when she, after she talks to Ashitaka, she's like, no, he's a human. I hate him. And she buries her face in Moro's floor and cries. Who's
Right,
the
right,
mopey teenager here?
Yeah,
Right, but in
your
this
mopey
case, the
teenager
mopey
can
teenagers-
kill.
Yeah, and it's gonna kill you.
I think we're just gonna have to fade the episode